Hello and welcome to Badge Chat K-12. We are once again live on YouTube, and hopefully we'll be joined by a few other folks who promised they'd be here shortly, but I want to go ahead and get started in case anybody was just sitting there watching the Twitter to get going live right away on time. Didn't want to keep you waiting. My name is Noah Geisel, and I'm a co-founder and frequent host of Badge Chat K-12. And this week we'll be discussing a debrief for those of you who aren't just living, breathing, swimming deep in the badges every week. Oh, we got Nate Otto with us. Awesome. We got Rich Dixon with us. Awesome. For those of you who aren't, I was just telling everybody, Rich and Nate, that for anybody who's not just swimming deep in the badge stuff, they might not know that last week in Orlando, there was a big convening of folks at the IMS Summit. And Rich, it sounds like you were just all over North America talking badges. And so while normally we'd be on Twitter talking badges with a topic this week, I thought was so much action over the last couple of weeks, it might be good to just get together some of the folks who would normally be on Twitter anyways and kind of debrief what the heck happened over the last few weeks. So quick round of introductions. I can see Don Prezant is joining us, ensuring that we stay international. He's joining us from Canada. Hey, Don.
Hi, happy to be the token Canadian.
We have Nate Otto in Oregon. Are you in Oregon, Nate?
I am back in Oregon from Orlando. Thanks for having me.
Nate is sporting some super fancy equipment, so awesome that we're going to have super high quality audio from him. And Nate works with Concentric Sky, who created the Badger platform, no EBADGR platform, and he also is formerly the executive director of the Badge Alliance. And we also have Rich Dixon, who along with Nate and Don, has been around with Badge Chat since pretty much the very beginning, and it joins us most weeks. And Rich, why don't we just start off with you, because the other three of us weren't in the same place as you. Tell us about just where you were and what was exciting and going on with badges in the last couple of weeks.
I think from a really high level, to cover the geography of what I got to do, I started just over 8 days ago in Tulare County, California, which is kind of the middle of the state, slightly north, considerably north, at a local county office of education, where we were talking with educators that were either starting badge projects or looking to start. And then next, a few days later, went out to Kansas State University for the Mid-America Association for Computers and Education Conference, speaking on the same topic, and then wrapped up this past Saturday, just a couple days ago, at the New York Skate conference there, which is their kind of mid-state ed tech conference, and in the Hudson Valley area. And in all three of those, it was exciting to see both new faces that were coming to the table around digital badges, and then also seeing a really unique new set of visions around how to implement digital badges, how to create currency, which I look forward to having an opportunity to share later. And then also being able to get over the initial buy-in challenges that some of these different initiatives across the country have faced. In other words, how to get buy-in from the HR departments and administrators and others. So that's a super high-level overview of the things that I got to do.
Awesome, and I think we'll be diving deep into all of those. I can see Kate Tolnoy has joined us. Kate, if you're driving, drive safe. And for the folks who are watching live, know you can tweet in your questions with the hashtag BadgeChatK12, and one of the five of us will catch that in a timely manner and interrupt the conversation, make sure your question gets asked right away. I'll start off just with something that I thought was really exciting. I think it touches, Rich, on what you were talking about with this enthusiasm around badge currency. So maybe it will be a good segue into that. Although my guess is Don and maybe Kate and Nate will want to jump in on this as well. And that is that something that Don's been talking about a lot for probably the last year and a half on our weekly chats is how folks will start to use the credentials once they've been issued beyond just the earner and the issuer themselves. And something that I heard that was really exciting, I thought, at the IMS gathering in Orlando, was the gentleman from IBM talking about how the credentials that they're using are capturing employee skill levels at really the nano level. And that the way that they're now implementing that internally in IBM is to create what he referred to as heat maps of talent. And so I thought that was really exciting, where he's saying, when we have a new project come up, we don't have to look for the perfect person. We can more figure out what are the skill sets that need to serve on this project, call up the heat map, see where those skills are around the world, who's available to be moved on to this project, and then go from there. And I think that is, that's putting the human in big data. It's kind of just like totally futuristic and Minority Report on the positive side, I think, for me, on how maybe in the education space, we can start to see school districts use badges. I know, Don, you've kind of talked a lot about, hey, we can start to figure out where our internal capacity is. So we don't have to rely on bringing in outside experts or bringing in, scheduling trainings or bringing in somebody from the IT department for this. We can find somebody down the hall with that skill, thanks to this heat map that tells us, hey, we have for example, Infant Campus Ninja just 2 doors down.
Right, and that comes from badges being machine readable, not just human readable. And I was just talking to somebody in the Canadian government today about this, and shared with her that heat map image, and I'll bring it up if I can screen share. But that's indeed the whole idea. And actually, one of the things that IBM mentioned that really got me was they were talking about those jobs that are really hard to fill. So you mentioned the example of an information architect. $200K a year, has to have a PhD in this, and has to have this much experience in this, and has to have this. And what they're talking about is virtualizing that person with a team. So if not one person has it, well, use more than one person. They work in teams online, and that's more of that virtualization of work, which I think is going along in parallel with the robot apocalypse. So I'll just see if I can bring up this this heat map here. Can I share?
Absolutely. If you hover over your screen, Don, a little menu will come up on the left, and there'll be a box with a green arrow on it, and you can click on that to screen share. And while you're pulling that up, Nate or Kate, did you have anything to add on to the robot apocalypse?
Well, you always have to watch out for the robot apocalypse, but I think move, boldly and aware into the future, which will involve a lot of machine learning about what is interesting and what are the connections between different badges, and the real world skills they point to, and between people and those badges. So we want to build services that have privacy awareness built into them, but also have a lot of power to do this kind of thing around building teams at an organization, to spin up new initiatives quickly, and across the walls of organizations. And that's why the power of open badges is so applicable to this market, because these are boundary objects. They're technologies that can cross boundaries and can transmit meaning as they do so.
And I just wanted to share too that it came up, this whole idea of the heat map and being able to Google by micro-credentials and this and that. Like, I think there's a fine line, and there seems to be a cry for standardization of badges, at least in the K-12 world. And I'm kind of counter-crying, saying if we standardize, we lose the magic of personalization that badges and micro-credentials really bring to the conversation. But there is something really powerful and efficient about making things searchable and findable. And I think being thought leaders in this area, it would benefit so many people for us to wrap our heads around, how to quickly and efficiently describe what an open badge is, what metadata is, so that we can help people understand the efficiency rather than get all caught up on the privacy side of it. But just to echo what you guys are saying, I was definitely drawn to that idea.
So I've got, I can just share this. I'm not sure how big it goes. It's just an image from the PowerPoint, another PowerPoint that David Leeser from IBM was delivering. Can you see it okay? Okay. You're muted there, Noah, I think.
Yes, sorry, they didn't realize. My dog was barking for a minute there.
Okay, so all right. So let's just, I'll just stop sharing then. Go back. So it was, there was a lot of energy in that room. I think the one thing that I'm missing, and I anticipated missing, and I did miss, was more of a community voice there. It really was, focused on paid members getting up on the stage and talking about what they were doing. But I guess that's inevitable. I was keynoting at a university recently, and I said open badges was invented by hippies, and now it's gotten a haircut. A lot of soup gotten a haircut.
That is true in some respects. Definitely, there are companies, including Concentric Sky, where I work, that has seen the potential revenue in this space. The market for verifiable certifications is enormous. There's a huge growth potential there. But I think, as Kate says, also it's important to maintain a little bit of the wilder, more storytelling-based aspect of badges. And as others have said, you keep badges weird, and use badges to not only point to these common skills and characteristics, competencies maybe, that are shared across communities and across programs, but also go outside those pieces that sort of bring us together and standardize us, to use badges to show what is unique about individuals. It's definitely space for both. And on that community side, definitely pay attention to IMS's work on the Community Council, which is led by the program facilitator, Jeff Borer there. And if you're interested in, sharing and participating more on that community and unofficial, open recognition side of the community, that Community Council is one avenue. And then, of course, our biweekly calls of the Open Recognition Alliance, which is it's off this week on Wednesday, but returning next Wednesday at noon Eastern. Great place to sort of share about how badges fit into a broader world of recognizing all sorts of things, all kinds of trust about one another.
And for anybody who's watching live and just had a bunch of stuff that you didn't catch, I'm sure one of the five of us will kind of get some links put out on the hashtag in the coming minutes, so you can find out about stuff like that Open Recognition Alliance call. And Nate, you hit on something that was the next thing that I wanted to bring up, which is trust. But before we do that, I wanted to go back to Rich and kind of see if that heat map idea resonated at all with what you were hearing in your events around currency, or if there's completely other things that we need to be bringing up around currency.
I think at least in the K-12 sector, which is where I was spending my time, focus, both for students, but then particularly in this example that I'll give, was around professional development. Currency was really being explored in the framework of how do we take an existing structure that we already have, schools having days set aside for training or professional development, sometimes even monies to do that, and how do we reimagine the use of that? And so a school district in northern New York State, which is still waiting for final approval for their board, so I'm not going to mention their name until they get out there because I don't want to complicate any next board meetings they may have, has on the table a really beautiful plan where a annual 2-day set aside time for professional development, which is traditionally delivered in a one-size-fits-all manner, would be replaced with independent learning around subjects that the educators helped to identify in context with the larger district goals. And then I think what's really exciting is that if the learners can demonstrate or prove the application of those skills successfully according to different standards and submit it to the district district just signs off. And in a sense, those educators earn 2 days off, if you will. Other educators, if they want to wait and just do a full day presentation with a live presenter, that's fine. But it's starting to build both a way to recognize skill sets that are learned informally and teacher or learner directed, but then also giving them a little bit of an incentive without costing the district a whole lot more. In other words, they don't have to pay for another day of training and whatnot. So I'm very excited within the K-12 ecosystem for steps like this to move the ball down the field. And we're hoping to get those guys out to the Badge Summit, which is a segue maybe for you, Noah, to explain a little bit more later. But that's just one of several examples that I heard of ways in which school districts are trying to get creative in attending to real needs that educators anticipate, but leveraging all of the benefits that digital badges provide.
So quick clarifying question, Rich. Is it almost, for those of us in the classroom who are familiar with the idea of like preferred activity time that students can earn, is it almost like the badge currency for teachers could be preferred activity time for educators?
That's right, with the idea that it would bank them time, if you will. So those 2 days, whenever they come up annually, fall and spring, if they want the day off, they get to take the day off. If they want it for professional reasons, that's fine too. But it honors that investment of self-directed learning and informal learning, and really starts to build, I think, a lot of really exciting internal motivation. Even though there's an external reward, I get that part, but it really changes the paradigm of how they're looking about to accomplish professional development.
And Kate, did you have any? Oh, there you go.
Yeah, here I am. And I am totally intrigued by this because in my position at the county level, I'm asked often by all the different districts that we support, how do we incentivize and how do we work? Really, people are looking for solutions that are going to get unions on board and that are scalable. And I think this model is, wow, what an exciting model. And I'm curious, like, have they experienced union constraints? I don't even know if you can talk about this. Maybe I'm just going to acknowledge my interest and move on, but yeah, it's exciting to hear that a solution like that is out there.
Just as a quick sidebar to answer your question, yes, the union's on board, and primarily because that particular district spent a lot of time working with the different stakeholders or individuals who have a say in how professionals use their time within that district. And so they had done a lot of legwork from last June all the way through until now, and they're just getting ready to launch here in the next couple months. So with a lot of legwork and buy-in and relational time, they were able to pull it off and get that buy-in from the union.
Lucky ducks. That's all I'm going to say. Lucky ducks. Good job.
And Kate, for folks who are wondering on the kind of more like if this idea of currency in professional development is kind of a newer thing, who are watching this conversation, can you share just kind of what's going on? And maybe Rich, you have stuff to add on what's going on in St. Clair and some other places wherein the currency is more around like continuing education credit or even grad credit. And also just after your time in Orlando last week, if you had people reaching out to you with questions or sharing of innovative things that they're doing on that front.
Yeah, it was actually, that's a great question. And I participated in a focus group on last Wednesday with John, actually, and it was with community college reps and higher ed and the K-12. It was just a really good conversation to share that perspective. This particular point of integrating or graduate credit, really it's just semester units, into the whole conversation was very intriguing to them and got me thinking about questions I needed answers to in ways I hadn't thought about before. But basically, we have a relationship with the University of Pacific that allows, or we are able to align our online learning to courses that are already in place at UOP. And then through a nominal fee, they're able to earn that credit and take that credit with them. So we're kind of bridging this whole like traditional, non-traditional incentives around this learning. But it's similar to what you guys do at PDLN, right, Rich?
As I am myself, yes, absolutely. I think building in that layer of offering university credits both validates that learning and creates a perception of importance for those who are skeptical still of the claims that maybe open badges make, as ironic as that sounds, and then also allows them to have their learning acknowledged in a way that's formal and allows them to move professionally into different opportunities, as well, in certain cases, up on the pay scale.
Totally.
Sure. So, Rich, it's not just a perception of increased value. There actually are some ways that the university credit can be understood by the existing ecosystem that's different than what we have for badges. So where do we need to go with badges? Do we need to continue to explore gaining currency through these methods that already have currency, or do we need to build something outside of that, or both?
I think for myself, I would love to see both. I would love to see situations where people do need, for their particular context and environment, the opportunity to show that there's an outside, maybe third-party validation. But I'm also really excited about opportunities where the metadata, informal learning, where someone has acknowledged and issued a badge, that is valued as well. Maybe that's linking out to the evidence of learning or application through an e-portfolio. And Don, I know you have done a lot of thinking and practice in that area, and love to get your thoughts on that.
I mean, it's an interesting question. Actually, up in Canada, We don't really have the same drive for continuing education units as you have in the US, and I think that's one reason things are a bit slower up here. Certainly in terms of embedding badges in e-portfolios, that certainly helps them. I think there's information inside badges, especially if teachers reflect and gather resources and do different things to earn their badges. I think there's a lot of capability for information coming back, so they're not just ticking boxes and saying, yes, I'm unqualified in this now. They're actually contributing to the conversation and building the body of knowledge. And I think there's some things that can happen in there, and I hear it through places like IBM, some practices in Scotland, and things like that. So that idea of a bi-directional flow that I just explored on a very experimental basis with the BC Open Badges Forum. We had about 85 people there, and about 30 people submitted reflector badges, and we issued them. But it's just a wonderful database of information about how that learning at that event affected those people and where it could lead.
That was awesome when you shared that, Don, that you had so many people opting into, getting badges, adults who didn't have to. That was one of my takeaways from hanging with you last week in Orlando. Two quick things, and maybe folks can take it where whatever inspires you as far as what your takeaways were from some of these events we attended over the last few weeks that you think are worth sharing with others. One for me was sort of, as Don, alluded to, with governments and Rich and Nate with industries who are using this. It really just kind of reiterated for me that this is not some K-12 or higher ed fix to the real world that nobody else is asking for, but rather, something that really all these different stakeholders in the community are really buying into, and that, for somebody who's worried about kind of giving it a go with digital badges in their learning community, if their kind of hesitancy is that it's going to be a flavor of the week, this to me was just yet another reassurance that this is here to stay. IBM's not going to stop doing this. They have a huge value in it. And, even hearing, I forget who the speaker was, but saying, there's a lot more going on in industry that we even know about, because they're viewing it as kind of proprietary information that keeps them, gives them an advantage over their competition. So in fact, there's really powerful use cases that are just proprietary and nobody's sharing yet. So we'll have to find a way to poach them out of industry and come share with us in education. But what else was really interesting for other people? And if nobody has anything that really fancied them, the place that I would go is how badges fit into this idea of an extended transcript was the other thing that was really kind of exciting learning for me. But I'll turn it over to the other panelists as we're in our last 6 minutes for anybody who's not watching the time.
Cool. So I think there's a lot. There's just so much to do with badges, and seeing the excitement and all the different initiatives that could connect together at this IMS event was really positive. One particular thing to point out is that, we had a room full of people, one of the larger conference rooms at the Hard Rock Hotel with the big barrier down the middle removed, so that we sort of had a double-sized room, and we pretty much filled it up with representatives of the badging community. And the difference between this meeting and meetings that we've had before is that these organizations and companies paid to send their people there to the hotel to have this meeting, and they didn't have to have a central authority that is kickstarting this community with a bunch of, bootstrapping it with a bunch of money. And so we came together because we could see the potential that the technologies have. And, we are going to invest our own resources and actually becoming, part of that conversation. And that's a really nice turn for this community, where the potential, in some cases, revenue, in some cases, data that we can get out of it is, and in some cases, streamlining processes between organizations, like transferring credit from one college to another and competency information encoded in badges through the use of e-transcripts, that the benefits of coming together are so clearly worth a little bit of investment in terms of time and resources.
I think events are really important. That's something I realized putting together that BC Open Badges Forum. Noah, you've got your event coming up in June. Not your event, but the event that you were inspired to begin. And then we have later in the year, we have the EPIC conference, and that's another conference where people go to because they want to. And I think that's really important. People come together, they get re-energized, new ideas are generated, and people go away with fire in their belly and light in their eyes to go start fires all over the place.
Yeah, I would totally echo that. And if Kate and Rich want to jump in as well with any closing thoughts, please do. I will take the advantage for anybody who's watching live to make sure you are aware of the Badge Summit. It's June 24th in San Antonio. It is all of our events. If you are into badges, it is your event. And you just don't have to spend as much time working on it as some of us do. You can find information at bit.ly/badge summit. Early bird registration is only $99. It goes through March 15th. It includes breakfast. It includes lunch. It includes learning from some of these brilliant folks on this panel. We're going to have Connie Yao, who used to be with the MacArthur Foundation, is now with Cities of Learning and Collective Shift. We're going to have Lisa Tenario from Salesforce keynoting, Sarah the teacher, Sarah Thomas, one of our co-founders of Badge Chat K-12, is going to be there. All these higher ed folks, K-12 folks, the National Hardwood Flooring Association is going to be there sharing industry badges. So hopefully you too, if you're watching this, will want to join us. And you know, if you also have learning that you have, whether it's amazing stuff going on in your school or district, or even just the way you've failed in your own implementation with badges, go on the website on the RSVP tab. You can let us know that you'd like to share a poster session. We'd love to have you. And Rich or Kate, do you have any closing thoughts? And like real quick, check the hashtag to see if our live viewers shared any closing thoughts with us.
I'll jump in really quick. Oh, Rich, I cut you off. Sorry.
Good.
I felt unsure walking into the IMS event, you know, what my role was going to be. And I was prepared to listen a lot and learn about the community and share our story. And I have to say that my takeaway from getting FaceTime with Nate and Dawn and some of the amazing people in that focus group, and my time with my supervisor, because my supervisor joined me, and that was huge. That speaks tons about what we said earlier. You know, people are getting on board. This is becoming more than this isn't a trend. This is a movement. And I lived it. You know, I've been dedicated to this for 4 years, and to have it come full circle like this, and it's just amazing, and it's such a welcoming community, and I'm so hopeful moving forward that we're going to create all the right entry points for the people that are wanting to jump in, because we just have the right people on board right now, and it's so exciting to be a part of it.
I think I'll use a quick analogy. I liken it to a junior high dance, where the last few years, a lot of times I've gone into a conference, talked about things, people have looked around and said, who else is going to do it first? Who's going to be the first one off the sidelines? And now I feel like we've got people that have moved into the center of the dance floor and are starting to sway to the music, so to speak. And the anticipation is now being coupled with the reality of action. So in the K-12 space, I'm really excited to see things continue to grow.
And I think that is just like as good an ending as we could have, from dreams to action. Dawn up in Canada, Kate in California, Nate in Oregon, Rich in, what time zone are you in, Rich? Are you back in California? Rich,
Yeah, I'm back in California. I did make it in last night from New York, so I'm back in California though.
Well, to all of you who joined us, as well as Jared and the Badger team, anybody else who is watching live, thank you for taking time out of your day. Anybody who watches this on recording, we appreciate you. We value you. Join us, hashtag BadgeChatK12. We check it not just on Monday nights, but throughout the week. Again, bit.ly/badge summit is where you can learn about the Badge Summit. And thank you everybody so much for joining, and looking forward to next week. And unless we change topics, planning on a talk about trust. So that's your teaser for next week. Have a good afternoon, everybody.